Introduction. Over many years, evangelist Billy Graham has earned respect from people of all faiths. But during the Cold War era, at the height of the Brezhnev regime, he faced quite a bit of ridicule from conservatives in America for visiting the Soviet Union and meeting with leaders from the government and state church. Why would Dr. Graham treat the enemies of America and detractors of the Western Church with such courtesy and respect? Shouldn't he condemn Soviet human rights abuses and their restraints on religious liberty? They scoffed. One critic blamed him for setting the church back 50 years. Upon hearing the accusation, Graham lowered his head and answered, "I am deeply ashamed. I've been trying very hard to set the church back 2,000 years. God's plan A for redeeming the world was enacted 2,000 years ago, but don't understand that to mean the plan is irrelevant or outdated. God's plan is as relevant, powerful, and doable today as it was when Jesus enacted it. But somehow over time, people have diluted, distorted, even forgotten his plan. In order to understand it, then, we must press the rewind button and go back 2,000 years to the days when Jesus walked the earth. Really seeing people. When I read the gospel accounts of Jesus' life and envision how he lived and ministered to the people around him, I'm struck by the contrast to how most of us live our lives and approach ministry today. When Jesus saw people, he didn't hurry past them without noticing them in order to get to his next meeting at the synagogue. He noticed people and their needs. He acknowledged them by slowing down and connecting with them in life-giving ways. He saw them and stopped, becoming God's extended plan of love and grace to those in need. Matthew 9:35-36 says that Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom and healing every disease and every infirmity. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. When people in Jesus' day used the word saw, they understood it meant not only seeing with the eyes, but perceiving and seeing below the surface to a person's thoughts and heart, to the person's true self. In fact, in Jesus' day, the distinction between seeing people on the surface and seeing people below the surface didn't exist. So this scripture passage and others like it tell us that when Jesus saw the people around him, he truly saw them through and through. Most of us don't, not really. I see you. Not long ago, my son Drayson started the school year at a new elementary school, and when he returned home after the first day, I asked him how his day had gone. "Awful, Dad," he moaned. "All the other kids already have their friends, but didn't even notice me. No one saw me at recess. No one sat by me in the school cafeteria, and no one talked to me in class or after school. I was invisible, Dad." An interesting word choice, isn't it? And yet, unfortunately, many people feel this same way. Every day they live overlooked, unnoticed, and unseen lives. Invisible seems to best express how they feel. How often do we see people with our eyes but fail to see them past the surface? We may see them according to a category we've created for them, or the role they play in our lives, but we often fail to discover anything else about them. Seeing a person as more than your neighbor or the kid next door whose parents work all the time, or the guy in the cubicle next to you, or the checkout girl who bags your groceries isn't easy. But none of those people should be categorized. They're real people with real lives and real stories. Unfortunately, Most of us spend little time interacting with them. We barely even get to know their names, let alone any of the details of their lives. It's time we slowed down and started seeing people like Jesus did, or like people from the Zulu tribe in southern Africa. Zulus greet each other by saying, "I see you." And the response is, "I am here." What a powerful greeting. The moments you share with people are more than transactions, they're interactions. Do your actions say, "I see you," to the people around you? The change is subtle, yet significant. Next time someone serves you at a restaurant, bank, or store, speak to them as if you truly see them, instead of responding to them as if they were impersonal servants. Treat them like real people with real lives and real stories. Now, that may not seem like a big deal to you, but it is. Greet your servers by name. They usually wear a name tag, and ask them about their day. Encourage them. Tell them what you appreciate about their service. When you do, you'll be among the very few who see them, and you'll be setting the church back 2,000 years. Beyond seeing. Seeing is important, but Jesus didn't just see people. He stopped and served them. Seeing and stopping were two of the reoccurring hallmarks of his love. He looked into the faces of children who weren't highly valued in society, and he stopped. He made the time to hold them on his lap. When a man covered with leprosy fell to his knees and begged Jesus, "Lord, if you're willing, you can make me clean," Jesus stopped and touched him. When he encountered a woman caught in adultery, he stopped and called her to a better life. When faced with people oppressed and tormented by evil spirits, he stopped and delivered them. When he encountered Matthew in his workplace, he stopped and built a long-term relationship with him. When everyone else ignored and walked past hurting people, Jesus didn't. He saw them and stopped. Jesus never knew a stranger. Everyone belonged in one category: people to love. He valued others by asking them questions, discerning their needs, touching them, and serving them in practical ways. Every changed life resulted from an engaging conversation with a stranger. In the same way, we can follow in Jesus' footsteps by engaging strangers with a smile, an open heart, a word of encouragement, or even a spiritual deposit that could potentially change a life. One word. At one point, Jesus turned to his disciples and shared with them one word that explained why he stopped and saw in response to the needs around him. Jesus said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Pray therefore the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest." The word? Laborers. It may not be a very glamorous word, yet it's what will set us back 2,000 years to the way Jesus lived and ministered, and move us forward into a bright future, building God's kingdom according to his plan A. What the world needs, Jesus said, is laborers, common, everyday laborers. Laborers are Jesus' means for reaching the world with his love and forgiveness. They aren't just critical to his plan. They are his plan, his only plan. Kingdom laborers are God's plan A. But what exactly is a laborer? After all, it's not a normal household word people use to describe most Christians. After studying the Word in Scripture, I've developed a simple definition. Laborers are ordinary people who deeply love God and actively love others. They seek to live a life of love every moment of every day. A laborer is a minister, not just the professional kind like pastors and missionaries, but the common, ordinary kind like my wife, an art teacher, and children, students. Laborers are every day, every place ministers like my friend Shane, who works as a radio executive and leads some of his seeker friends and co-workers in the Tuesday morning breakfast club, sharing relevant Bible truth from his own life and helping them better discover God's amazing love and purpose for their lives. Or like my friend Bill, who owns a large freight company and deeply cares for the welfare of his employees. Or like my friends Norm and Becky, who served a short stint as overseas missionaries before unexpectedly returning home. They decided God must be sending them into a different kind of ministry. So Norm pursued a career in sales and Becky became a full-time mom. And together, they became missionaries in their neighborhood, caring for and sharing with their neighbors in life-changing ways. Or like James the Roofer, a special guy you will meet in the next chapter. Laborers are ordinary people who express their love for God through practical hands and feet service. They embody Jesus' primary means for reaching the world with his love. Because they live everyday lives in everyday society, they influence people in ways that few professional ministers could. And through their everyday jobs, they reach people who would never step foot in a church building. Want to know what a laborer looks like? Look in the mirror. God has called you to be one. And since laborers are God's plan A for reaching the world, that means you are God's plan A for reaching the world around you. You are God's plan A to the other soccer moms and dads you meet when you take your kids to practices and games. You are God's plan A to your coworkers with whom you spend more hours than nearly anyone else. You are God's plan A in your neighborhood, where you have time and opportunities to develop natural and meaningful relationships with your neighbors. You are God's plan A in your high school classroom or college dorm. You are God's plan A at your favorite restaurant where the servers know your name. Not your pastor, you. You are God's plan A. Did I mention there's no plan B?